cut me a break here. I'm going to bring up a bad word for a second, but it sounds very similar to the situation at USC. Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch, and they had a horrendous defensive year, and Alex Grinch has maintained his job. And I got to think that in both of these situations, that this is a make or break year for the defensive coordinator. To Jason's point, it's not like it's expected that OU is going to field a top defense this year. But if there's not significant improvement, you would think that Ted Roof's job as defensive coordinator, maybe not his role with the football program in total, but his role as defensive coordinator is very much on the line. And to be fair, I wouldn't mind a $50,000 raise. So that's significant to most, but at the same time, in light of his base salary of 1.15 million, it's about 4%, something in that range. So it's a pretty marginal raise. And he was not extended. He was not one of the coaches that had his contract extended. But my question for you, Jason, and I'm sure we discussed this at various points last season, was you have one of the great defensive minds in college football, Brent Venables, take over a program. He is not the defensive coordinator, nor does he have time to really flip the roster. But while there's a defensive coordinator there in Ted Roof, you would think that Venables would have a significant say in the defense. How much has he talked about his involvement in the defense and how much of a role that he's played in allowing Ted Roof to run the defense, but still being a mastermind himself on that side of the ball?
Yeah, he's been very coy on that specifically, Mark. I think, he's not really. I think a lot of people see the way the interactions happen on the sideline. You can tell, or you can make an assumption that Venables is calling a lot of the plays based on how he's interacting and how he's kind of communicating with everybody up in the booth or what have you. But I think, yeah, obviously he wants, and I think the program wants everyone to believe and assume that, yeah, he's not the defensive coordinator. But I think we all understand that he's more of a, he's more involved in that, in the day-to-day, in the play calling, than a normal, head coach would be without actually having that title. When you look at Lincoln Riley, certainly he's the offensive coordinator. There's no bones about that. But I think this is similar to what Bob Stoops did when he first started at Oklahoma. So I think Venables is taking a little bit of that along with it, from a coaching perspective, because even though Venables and Mike Stoops were really kind of the co-defensive coordinators when Bob came on in '99, Bob had a lot of hands in the defense. So I think it's a little bit like that, but I think it's even to a greater degree now, Mark, that Venables is really involved in that because I think he wants it to get, and obviously it was nowhere near what a lot of us thought it would be last year, particularly after how they started the first few games of the year. But I think he feels like he wants this to be in a fairly solid state before he completely turns over the reins to someone else, whether if it's Roof or whoever it might be down the road. Then I think that's when it'll kind of come, he'll pull those reins in, so to speak. But I think now he's got a much bigger hand in the defensive side of things than he would even admit.